Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtottara Shadhis Divine Grace Sisi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtottara Shadhi Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Shri Kahor Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Dham Ki Jai. Ganga Mai Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai. Tulsi Devi Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees. Hare Krishna. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna, everybody. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto number 6. Chapter 17 and text number 30. Aivekta Krita Pumso Yarta Bheda Ivatmani Gunadosha Vikalpash Cha Bhid Eva Sajivat Krita Avivekta Krita Pumso Yarta Bheda Vatmani Gunadosha Vikalpascha Videvas Rajivat Krita Avivekta Krita Pumso Yarta Bheda Vatmani Gunadosha Vikalpascha Videvas Rajivat Krita Avivekta Krita Pumso Yarta Bheda Vatmani Gunadosha Vikalpascha Videvas Rajivat Krita. Please chant. Pumso Veda Vivatmani Aviveka Krita Pumso Yarta Bheda Vivatmani Veda Ivatmani Gunadosha Vikalpascha Videva Sajivat Kritaha. Anybody else? Aviveka Krita Pumso Yarta Bheda Ivatmani Gunadosa Vikalpascha sajivat kirtaha aviveka krita pumso yartha bheda ivatvani guna dosha vikalpascha videva sajivat kritaha. Word to word meaning aviveka krita, done in ignorance, without mature consideration. Pumsaha, of the living entity. He, indeed, artha bedaha, differentiation of value. Iva, like, atmani, in himself. Guna dosha, of quality and fault. Vikalpaha, imagination. Cha, and. Bhet, difference. Eva, certainly. Sraji, in a garland. That, like. Kritaha, male. Translation and comments by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. As one mistakenly considers a flower garland to be a snake, or experiences happiness and distress in a dream, so in the material world, by a lack of careful consideration, we differentiate between happiness and distress, considering one good and the other bad. Purport. The happiness and distress of the material world of duality are both mistaken ideas. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antya 4:176, it is said, Dvaita Badra Badra Gyana Sabha Manodharma Iphala E Mandaya Sabha Brahma. The distinctions between happiness and distress in the material world of duality are simply mental concoctions. For the so-called happiness and distress are actually one and the same. They are like the happiness and distress in dreams. A sleeping man creates his happiness and distress by dreaming, although actually they have no existence. The other example given in this verse is that a flower garland is originally very nice, but by mistake, for want of mature knowledge, one may consider it a snake. In this connection, there is a statement by Prabodhananda Saraswati, Vishwam Purna Sukhaite. Everyone in this material world is distressed by miserable conditions. But Srila Prabodhananda Saraswati says that this world is full of happiness. How is this possible? He answers, Yat karunya kataksha vaibhavavat tam goram evastamaha. A devotee accepts the distress of this material world as happiness only due to the causeless mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By his personal behavior, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed that he was never distressed, but always happy, in chanting the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra. One should follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and engage constantly in chanting the Maha Mantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Then he will never feel the distress of the world of duality. In any condition of life, one will be happy if he chants the holy name of the Lord. In dreams, we sometimes enjoy eating sweet rice and sometimes suffer as if one of our beloved family members had died. Because the same mind and body exist in the same material world of duality, when we awake, the so-called happiness and distress of this world are no better than the false, superficial happiness of dreams. The mind is the via medium in both dreams and wakefulness, and everything created by the mind in terms of sankalpa and vikalpa, acceptance and rejection, is called mana dharma, or mental concoction. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Tadati Swapadantikam Vancha Kopatrubhischa Kripa Sindhabhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay. So we continue to speak about King Chittaketu. And now we see that Lord Shiva is speaking to Mother Parvati, and he's trying to glorify the qualities of Maharaj Chitraketu, who's known as Mahatma. Maha means great, and Atma means soul. And in the world, we see that sometimes people call different personalities, just regular people, Mahatma. Like, for instance, Mahatma Gandhi, or in India, they call Vladimir Lenin, the Mahatma Lenin, they say. Yeah. But actually, he was an atheist, and at the end of his life, he was very fearful of death, and he started worshipping different objects like chairs and tables. It was crazy how he passed away. But Mahatma is described as the one who is equal to all living entities, and he's free from envy, hatred, or any attachment. And he is the one who's sama dukkha sukham dhiram. It means that he's steady in happiness and distress. Also, Vaishnav or Mahatma is para dukkha dukhi. In other words, when he sees other people being troubled, he's always compassionate, and he always wants to help. Just like Prahlad Maharaj said, that I have no personal problems, but I'm just feeling I have a problem with those people who are simply trying to enjoy this material energy. They are fools and rascals. They're busy with Maya Sukha, temporary happiness. And they have no knowledge of devotional service unto you. So this is the problem faced by a Vaishnav, because a Vaishnav, he takes shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He personally has no problems himself, but he, out of compassion, wants to come and help the conditioned souls, because he knows that they always thinking of plans of how they can be happy in this life. And also, most importantly, a Mahatma is very dear to Lord Krishna. And now the great devotee King Chitraketu, he was very powerful, and he could have cursed Mother Parvati right at the spot. But instead of that, he chose to act in a humble way. So he accepted the curse and offered humble respects. He bowed down to Mother Parvati. And then afterwards, as we know, we went over this section, he became a demon. He came out of the sacrifice, which was performed by Twash. Then he came as a demon when he chanted the mantra in incorrect way, and he became a Vritrasura. And now we see that this purport deals with the duality of happiness and distress. And sometimes it says that we accept the flower garland to be a snake, but it's simply mental concoction. Just like in a dream, sometimes we might dream about being attacked by somebody, like a tiger, or sometimes we might dream that we have came to see the mountain of gold, and we became very rich, so we might feel very happy. But when we wake up, we understand that this has no actual existence. So it's illusion. And the same situation here in the material world, we experience a dream, but instead of experience a subtle dream, we experience a gross dream in this body. We're thinking that this principle, this conception of aham mameti, that this everything belongs to me, this nice house, this car, this family, all the things that I have in my garage, and I think that it all belongs to me, but it's actually will be finished as soon as the body is gone, and all will be finished. Now, in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, it is explained that this type of happiness is called it comes from matras sparshas, means it's sensual conception. Krishna says matras sparshas tu kuntaya shitoshna sukha dukkha agamapaino nitya stam diksha shvabharata, that non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course, they compared to the winter and summer seasons, so they come from sense perception. And wise people, they are not disturbed by this type of happiness or distress. They just simply tolerate them. And actually, tolerance is such a powerful quality. If we just learn how to be tolerant, we can really have no mitigations in terms of advancement in spiritual life. If we're able to tolerate distress and not pay so much attention to happiness, because it's all temporary. So Bhagavad Gita, this verse, it talks about duties, performing duties. Sometimes we experience inconveniences. And despite these inconveniences of the body and mind, when it comes to performing our duty, we should remain free from this false association with the modes of nature. And we should strive to act without the false ego. And things that can help us is if we develop determination, we have determination, if we feel enthusiastic in our service. If we're not caring for success or failure, we're not expecting the result. We're trying to be equal in distress and happiness. And this is the work, the activity in the mode of goodness, not expecting anything for it. And these conceptions of good and bad, imagination, so mental speculation, when we forget that we are eternal servants of Krishna, we want to enjoy material world through different plans separately from him. And we distinguish between different material plans that are good and those that are bad, but actually they're all false. A real Vaishnava or a learned person has no conception of material world, and he has no conception of anything materially important. His only duty is to accept things that are favorable to us in our Krishna consciousness. In Srimad Bhagavatam, 11th canto, there's a text in relation to this. It goes, Kim badram kim abhadram va, dvaitasya vastanakiyat, va chaditam tadandritam manasadhyatmaivacha. That which is expressed by material worlds or meditated upon the material mind is not ultimate truth. What therefore is actually good or bad within this insubstantial world of duality, and how can the extent of such good and bad be measured? And in the purport it is explained that the actual truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything emanates and everything is maintained by him and put to rest. So material nature is simply a reflection of the absolute truth. Maya, illusion, that distracts the conditioned souls from knowing the truth. And therefore we become absorbed in matter, different affairs in this material world. But it has no permanent existence, as we understand. So every created thing in this universe is a product of the three modes of material nature and is subject to sensory perception. And essentially these perceptions are unreal. It's just a designation of good and bad. And we just assign this qualities, these activities of the world as superficial, so we think that they're good or bad. Like for example, the politics, we have two sides in America, and some people they think that Democrats are good, and they have many arguments. Or some people say that Republicans are good, and they also can provide many arguments. So this logic in terms of finding truth in life is not helpful, because there's always somebody who can come up with a better logic or have a better argument. So it's advised in the Shastra to avoid this condemning or praising anything in this world, because it simply just entangles us and deprives us from experiencing a higher taste. We should see things in light, in such light, and move in this world in a conception of yukta vairagya. We should be unattached to material affairs and try to dovetail everything in service to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada explains in the 13th chapter that by knowledge of the knower, both the soul and the super soul, kshetragya, we can relish the nectar of life. And that nectar of life is also mentioned here in this purport, which says that we should devotee accepts the distress of this material world as happiness only due to the causeless mercy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. By his personal behavior, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu showed that he was never distressed, but always happy in chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. So one should follow in the footsteps of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and engage constantly in chanting Mahamantra. But then, what is it about chanting that makes us so happy? I'm still trying to learn this great science of chanting, and it's actually quite amazing. I remember Bhadran Swami Maharaj told me, gave me an advice on chanting, is that we should always try to set aside a period of time in the morning where we can just chant without disturbance. And in time, day after day, it's going to get only sweeter and sweeter. And as devotees, we entering into this nectarian ocean of the holy name, which is endless. So, of course, I'm a neophyte devotee, and I have no taste for the name, and I'm not blessed with many realizations. But it's always good to speak about this, even if we're just trying to repeat what we've heard. So, we try to repeat our great acharyas and our initiating gurus, how they understand Mahamantra. For instance, Srila Prabhupada said that there's no other means of spiritual realization that would be as effective as chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra in this age of quarrel and hypocrisy. And chanting is the chief means for God realization, Godhead, Supreme Personality of Godhead. It doesn't depend on your birth or on your riches. It doesn't depend on the paraphernalia that we use. Simply just by humility and meekness, we can attract the attention of Krishna. If we just have the desire to always improve chanting, improve our japa, and do better in this, we can. That is the real qualification of say advancement in chanting. And sometimes we might feel like after chanting 16 rounds, it seems like it's not enough, or we couldn't really hear so well, or we couldn't grasp the name, so to say. So, yeah, it is if we feel troubled by the mind, it's a good feeling to feel like that. It's good that we're not just trying to be done with this and move on. So it is advised by many great devotees that we should just sit down and continue chanting. Maybe not right away if it's not possible, but during the day do some extra chanting, do some extra rounds, or maybe even chant another 16 if it's possible. It's always blissful to chant more rounds. And the mission of great devotees, we see when so many nice great devotees were accepting shelter of Srila Prabhupada, and in their activities we see that all they're trying to do is they're trying to inspire people to accept this chanting Hare Krishna. They're trying to help people to become devotees of the Lord. But sometimes we meet people and we see that they might not be fully ready to accept the philosophy of Krishna consciousness so well. So what we can do in this case, we can engage their senses, engage their tongue in chanting, and maybe give them prasadam. Like me and Virachandra Prabhu, we were in Balboa Park, and he was singing, he was doing some bhajan singing, and I was distributing books. And I saw one couple, and I just out of curiosity wanted to ask them, what do you think this guy is singing? What is he saying? And they're like, I don't know. I don't know what it is. So he told me when we got in the car that people hear me singing, they see the books on the table, but they don't understand that it's actually connected. And I said, well, maybe one day they will understand. And I remember my experience when I first started chanting. I was actually doing some online education for like self-development, and I came across a seminar that I took, and it was led by a devotee from Russia. And he was teaching the chant, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting, and he would play Srila Prabhupada's recording, and we would try to close our eyes and try to repeat and chant in a similar way. And it was very nice. It actually made me feel very peaceful, and I wrote down the chant and downloaded a picture on my phone, even though it's 3 words, but still, in the beginning you kind of have to memorize it. And I remember I was driving in a truck, and my coworker, he was experiencing a lot of rage on the road. He was very angry. And so whenever he would get angry, I tried chanting. I would just close my eyes and just in my mind, we know there's 3 ways to chant in the mind, when you only can hear, and also silently and congregationally for the benefit of all. So I was just chanting in my mind, and it was a very nice experience. It was helping me a lot. And I came to the temple, and I participated in kirtan for the first time, and I didn't understand the meaning of this practice, or the potency of, I couldn't explain the potency of chanting, but somehow it just moved something in my heart, and I was feeling very happy reciprocating with this mantra. And on the way back home, I remember driving. I actually stayed the night for the first time, and when I was driving back, I was just chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And yeah, sometimes people also feel like that when we meet them and start chanting with them. I'm sure you all experienced that to an extent. I remember I met this one person from Tucson. He was traveling with his friends, and I shared some books with him, and I bring this pair cartels, so I chanted with them, and they really liked it. And one guy in particular, I don't remember his name, he came back like a week later to my table, and the first thing he said, let's chant again. Let's chant. I really like chanting. Let's chant. Let's do it again. And another time I met this one lady. Her name is Bloodwind, and she lives in I believe somewhere in Orange County and somewhere in California. And she's a researcher on environmental studies in it's called University of Redland. And I shared some books with her, and I gave her prasadam. And then at the end, I taught her how to chant. And some days later, she was diagnosed with COVID. And she texted me because we exchanged numbers. And she told me, you should get tested because I'm really feeling horrible. I was in the emergency room 4 times. I spent 6 hours in the hospital. I'm really feeling horrible. She said I almost died. And then she texted me, and this is what she said: I think I would have died from COVID if I had not met you and memorized this simple chant. Because when she was in pain, she was feeling sick, she would try chanting, and it helped her. She's 62 years old, so this chanting was really very helpful for her. And she was feeling also grateful that we've met. And she told me that she's going to take these books and she's going to share them with her students. She's going to go to the university and share these books. And unfortunately, I invited her to the temple a few times, but she couldn't come because she lives far away. Maybe one day she will come, hopefully. And Srila Haridas Thakur said that in life and death we should fill our mouth with the nectar of the holy name, which will provide direct association of the Lord. And as the text recommends, we should follow Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And then we might ask ourselves, how do we do that? And in CC it is a very famous text, Yaradehe Tarakaha Krishna Upadesha. Krishna Upadesha, we should instruct people wherever we go. Amara Agnaya Guruhana Tarahidesha. That we should, wherever we go, whoever we meet, we should instruct people. We should become the guru. We should instruct people in science of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. That is the purpose of Krishna consciousness movement, is to elevate the society to the perfection of life, and perfection of life is Krishna consciousness. And successful preaching means that when we give people the holy name, and also when we speak about the 4 regulative principles, because the holy name will only start to, of course, in the beginning stages, will only start to really work if we follow the principles and further accept a spiritual master. So we should mention these 2 things to people. 3 things actually. We should give them the holy name, we should speak about regulative principles, and talk about the importance of accepting a spiritual master. And it's all listed and described in Srila Prabhupada's books, even in small books. So we give the holy name by sharing, distributing books. And great thing about this practice is that it's not dependent on anything material, any material circumstances. Even if we're not so materially advanced and well-to-do, it would not stop us from making a lot of progress spiritually. So wherever a devotee lives, he can for sure convert that place into Vrindavan or Navadvip. And that means that the materialism cannot touch that place or that devotee. So Bhakti Yoga is a very simple sacrifice, and by that sacrifice we gain so much more. And like Srila Prabhupada's father, he used to say to him that if when Krishna takes your money or possession in 10 hands, what can you do with you? What can you protect with your 2 hands? And when he gives you in 10 hands, what can you actually take with your 2 hands? So one who surrenders to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and is ready to follow him with heart and soul, he does not need to change his location or his social position. He can remain in his location, social position, whether he's a businessman or medical practitioner or engineer, doesn't matter. We just need to simply follow the instructions of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and that's all. Like in Shikshashtakam prayers, it says, Nam Nam Akari Bahudan Yajusarva Shakti Statra Pita Niyamate Smaranena Kalaha Etadrishita Vakripan Bhagavan Mamapi Durdaiva Madrisham Mehajanina Nuraga. O my Lord, your holy name alone can render all benediction to living entities. And those you have hundreds and millions of names like Krishna and Govinda. In these transcendental names you have invested all your transcendental energies, all your powers, and not even hard and fast rules for chanting these names. So out of kindness, please enable us to approach you by your holy name. But I'm so unfortunate that I have no attraction. So yeah, we shall chant as much as possible all the time and instruct our relatives and people that we meet in the science of Srimad Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And then the last point that I'd like to touch on is the Srila Prabhupada was talking about Manodharma here in the last paragraph. And Manodharma is simply a religion or a conception, a philosophy that is created in people's minds. But real religion is enunciated by the Supreme Lord. Dharmam tu sakshat Bhagavan pranitam. This supreme, the process of religion is coming from Supreme Lord. He is the supreme authority. So mental speculation or arguments, they cannot help us. One of the names of Krishna is Adokshaja, which means that it's beyond any measurement of our senses. And as the text describes, the mind is working in terms of sankalpa and vikalpa, accepting and rejecting things. And intelligence is there to help us discriminate what is to be accepted, what is to be done, and what is to be rejected, and what is to be done, what is not to be done, excuse me. And intelligence, Srila Prabhupada says, it belongs to the soul. Yabudhe paratastu saha. And saha means he, the soul. So Arjuna in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita he was advised to train or control the mind by meditation. But then he said that it's very difficult. I can't do this, Krishna. The mind is chanchalam himana Krishna. The mind is always flickering and just jumping like crazy from one place to another. And often people also say that on book distribution that meditation, no, I can't do that. It's too difficult. My mind, it's just so crazy. I can't even concentrate for a moment. And sometimes they even say that not only meditation, but that even reading or studying is difficult for me. So, yeah, the mind can be a big rascal, completely against us sometimes. And the psychological activities of the mind is the process of thinking and feeling and willing. And it's also very difficult to control them. So people, they have many ideas and many self-help books and different things that they give you as a training for the mind. And they always say that we should focus on the present moment. We live in now, they say. But then what if now I'm experiencing a lot of just mental problems and my mind is just ruling, it's going crazy. What do I do now? It's impossible for me to concentrate. So therefore we should have a purpose. Life should be with a purpose. And like often people on the street, they would ask us about, you accepted this practice, this tradition, you're reading these books, but are you actually happy? Are you actually free from duality and anxiety in the mind? And I try to say that while we're still experiencing difficulties, because some things come up when you're churning, when you're going into this very deep past experiences and impressions, it's natural that things will come up. So what I say is that we're experiencing anxiety and difficulties, but we know that when these difficulties come, we know that we can take shelter. We know where to go, what practice that is available for us. Whereas most people, they don't know the practice. They don't know how to deal with the mind at a difficult moment. So as long as we're in the mental platform, there will be no fixity of real conclusion. So we have to just jump from one point to another. We accept something for time being and then we reject it. Therefore, the different mental speculations, they differ. And a Muni, he always comes up with something new philosophy. Nasa Munir Yasya Matamna, a philosopher, he is not a real philosopher. If he is philosophy, he is not different from another philosopher, you know. But Shastra says that the truth is very confidential. So if we want to know the truth, we should approach an acharya. We should approach a guru, like Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And also another advice of the Shastra is to give deliberate consideration about who we are in this life and what this world is. And since human life is an opportunity for us, we can use this opportunity to wind up this material business here in this material world and take advantage of this life and go back home. Srila Prabhupada also explains about the mind that it's working as a factory. It's producing a lot of ideas for different ideas about happiness, how we can be situated happy in this world, but it's all just a illusion. So intelligence, which is in contact with Shastra and devotional service, becomes transcendental and allows us for an opportunity of steady mind. And from steady mind we can experience peace, and from peace comes happiness. Brahma Nirvana. We're situated on the spiritual platform and we really feel happiness of the soul. And as soon as we understand that Krishna is the only enjoyer of sacrifice and penance, and is the proprietor of all universal manifestations, and that he is the best friend of the living entities, then we can only have that happiness and that peace that we're searching for. So we should just simply ask ourselves this important questions. What is the ultimate goal of the soul, and what is the form of the soul, under whose control this body is working? And yesterday I tried asking these questions to people on book distribution. In particular, I was asking them, what is the purpose of the soul? And most people, they just have no idea at all. They just don't want to shake their shoulders and they say, I don't know. And I only had one answer that somehow made sense. This one person, she told me that the purpose of the soul is to learn, and the purpose of the body is to facilitate the experience of learning, she told me. And she also said that this body is temporary. And that was the only good answer that I've gotten from people. Yes, she was getting to that point. Yeah, she was understanding the things I was showing in Bhagavad Gita. So yeah, this life is meant for inquiries, not for exercising our mind for creating different, going into this different pleasurable ideas, looking for this pleasurable things in the material world to experience by senses, to enjoy by our senses. Life is a sacrifice, and that sacrifice, it helps us to control the mind and senses. And by controlling the mind and senses, we can understand the real position of Atma, the self. And by understanding that position, we feel happy. So I guess I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments. Joseph, yeah.
I like the way you bring up the holistic aspect of the chant. You know, I'm a retired holistic health practitioner, and I got COVID last year, and I had to use the chant. I should have gone to the hospital. I went into septic shock for 2 days. I know what it feels like to be dying. Anyway, I was chanting feverishly, and so I know how it works. But I call it Reiki, you know, kind of. But so can you explain to us, you know, it's a part and parcel of Krishna. I was crying because I was deep, you know, this morning I chanted and I was happy, but I was crying, septic shock. But so how does, what part of Krishna, what happened that I got better? And that lady in the hospital, she saved her life. How'd that happen?
Yeah, I mean, chanting is a direct association with Krishna, and Krishna knows that everything that is going on in our heart. So by chanting, we not only that, as you actually mentioned, that not only that we experience the joy of the soul, we also can feel better with our mind and in our gross body. It also can improve. And for instance, if you look at the face of a devotee, he's always very jubilant and happy. There's something going on different platforms that help us to be more mentally healthy, physically, and actually spiritually. Chanting is very powerful. Anybody else?
So 2 or 3 verses after the famous verse, Krishna Varnam Tusha Krishna, describing Lord Chaitanya as the avatar of the age. There's verse 36 of the 5th chapter of the 11th canto, 11:5-36. Kaling sabhaji antyaya guna gyasara bhaginaha yatta sankitanena eva sarvasarta vilabhite. Those who are actually advanced in knowledge are able to appreciate the essential value of this age of Kali. Such enlightened persons worship the Kali Yuga, because in this fallen age, all perfection of life can easily be achieved by the performance of Sankirtan. And then I'm just going to read the last paragraph here, which is very wonderful. Purport by Hridayanath Das Goswami. Love of Krishna and entrance into Krishna's planet in the spiritual sky is the most supremely perfect and exalted status of life available anywhere, at any time, throughout the totality of existence. That perfection is available in Kali Yuga simply by chanting the holy names of God. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Therefore, every sane man, woman, or child should deeply understand the unprecedented opportunity offered by Lord Chaitanya and seriously take up this chanting process. Only the most unfortunate and irrational person will neglect this transcendental opportunity. 11:5-36 Bhagavatam.
Yeah. That is the conclusion of Srimad Bhagavatam, is to chant the holy name of God.
The very last verse of the Bhagavatam. Yeah. It starts out this way. Nama Sankirtanam Yasya Guna how's it go? Nama Sankirtanam Yasya. I forgot that. But it starts out, it says, by chanting the holy name of Krishna, that's the best way to worship the Lord, and by offering obeisance to him, you eradicate all sinful activities. Just look up the last verse in the 12th canto. It's interesting.
Also in the 7th canto, it is said that the Krishna consciousness, the activities of Krishna consciousness can burn the seed of fruitive activities which are artificial and created by the modes of nature. And so yeah, the chanting is the perfection of religion. Anybody else? Any last questions? Okay, thank you for your attention.